In the ancient world, where gods walked among mortals and heroes shaped the fate of nations, no legend burns brighter than that of Hercules, known to the Romans as Hercules. His story is one of unimaginable strength, devastating tragedy, and ultimate redemption. A tale that has echoed through time for over 3 millennia. Born from the union of Zeus, king of the gods, and Alcmene, a mortal woman of Thebes, Hercules entered the world already marked by divine favor and immortal jealousy. The child's very existence was an affront to Hera, Zeus's vengeful wife, who would orchestrate the hero's downfall. Yet in her attempts to destroy him, she would only forge him into the greatest champion Greece had ever known. From his earliest breath, Hercules displayed supernatural strength that defied mortal comprehension. As an infant, he strangled the serpents sent by Hera to kill him, grasping their writhing bodies with hands that would one day reshape the ancient world. This was merely the first sign of the extraordinary destiny that awaited the child, whose name would become synonymous with heroic endeavor. As Hercules grew to manhood, his strength became legendary throughout the Mediterranean world. He could uproot trees with bare hands, divert rivers from their courses, and face down the most fearsome beasts that roamed the earth. Yet for all his physical might, he carried within him a terrible curse, the madness that Hera would periodically inflict upon him. The most devastating episode came when Hercules had settled into domestic life with his wife Megara and their 3 children. In a fit of divine madness, he mistook his beloved family for enemies and slaughtered them with his own hands. When the fog of insanity lifted, the hero found himself standing amid the bodies of those he cherished most, their blood staining his hands and soul forever. Consumed by grief and desperate for redemption, Hercules sought guidance from the Oracle of Delphi, the sacred priestess who served as the voice of Apollo. The oracle's pronouncement would alter his life forever. He must serve his cowardly cousin Eurystheus, king of Tiryns, for 12 years, performing whatever labors the king demanded. Only through this servitude could he atone for his crimes and cleanse his soul. Thus began the most famous chapter in the life of Hercules. The 12 labors that would test not only his legendary strength, but his courage, cunning, and determination to transcend the darkest impulses of his nature. Each labor would push him to the very limits of mortal and divine endurance, forcing him to confront monsters, gods, and the demons within his own tormented heart. The first labor commanded Hercules to slay the Nemean lion, a beast so terrible that no weapon forged by mortal hands could penetrate its golden hide. This creature, born of the monsters Echidna and Typhon, had terrorized the hills around Nemea for 30 days, its roar echoing through valleys as it claimed victim after victim. Hercules tracked the beast to its lair, a cave with 2 entrances. Armed with his mighty club and arrows, he first attempted conventional weapons, but they bounced harmlessly off the impenetrable hide. Realizing brute force alone would not suffice, Hercules employed strategy. He blocked one entrance with massive boulders, then entered through the other, cornering the lion in darkness. What followed was a wrestling match of titanic proportions. Man and beast locked in mortal combat as the mountains trembled beneath their struggle. Finally, using the lion's own strength against it, Hercules strangled the beast with his bare hands. using the lion's own claws to pierce its hide. He fashioned a cloak from the Nemean lion's skin that would protect him throughout his remaining labors. The second labor took Hercules to the marshes of Lerna, where the Lernaean Hydra lurked in poisonous swamps. This serpentine monster possessed 9 heads, each capable of spitting deadly venom. Worse still, when one head was severed, 2 would grow in its place, making the creature seemingly invincible. Accompanied by his nephew Iolaus, Hercules approached the monster's lair. The Hydra emerged from murky waters like a vision from humanity's darkest nightmares, its multiple heads weaving hypnotically as poisonous breath created deadly clouds. The battle began with Hercules wielding a massive sword, striking off head after head, but each severed neck sprouted to new heads. When Hera sent a giant crab to attack from behind, Hercules crushed it beneath his foot and called upon Iolaus for aid. His nephew lit a torch, and, as Hercules severed each head, immediately cauterized the wound with fire, preventing regeneration. One by one, they systematically destroyed the beast until only the immortal central head remained, which Hercules buried beneath an enormous boulder. He dipped his arrows in the Hydra's toxic blood, creating weapons of unimaginable lethality. The third labor commanded Hercules to capture the Cyrenaean hind alive, a golden-horned deer sacred to Artemis that could run faster than any arrow could fly. For an entire year, Hercules pursued the hind across mountains, through forests, and over rivers, testing his endurance as much as his speed. Finally, as the hind paused to drink from a stream, Hercules fired an arrow between the tendons and bones of its front legs, pinning it without permanent harm. When Artemis appeared with her silver bow drawn, demanding to know why a mortal dared touch her sacred beast, Hercules explained his divine punishment and quest for redemption. Moved by his genuine remorse, Artemis allowed him to carry the hind to Eurystheus. The fourth labor brought Hercules face to face with the Erymonthian boar, a massive creature terrorizing Mount Erymonthos. This task required capturing the beast alive, presenting unique difficulties for a hero more accustomed to destroying his enemies. Hercules devised a strategy relying on winter's harsh climate, waiting for deep snow that would slow the beast's movements. Tracking the boar to its lair, Hercules drove it from cover, the creature charged with murderous intent. But the hero had chosen his battlefield well. The boar's hooves found no purchase in deep snow, and its massive weight worked against it as it became mired in drifts. Seizing his opportunity, Hercules leaped upon the struggling beast's back, wrestling it into submission through sheer strength. The fifth labor took Hercules to Elis, where King Augeas owned vast herds that had not been properly tended in 30 years. The stables were buried beneath layers of manure, so deep the stench could be detected from miles away. Eurystheus commanded Hercules to clean these stables in a single day, seemingly impossible even for the world's strongest man. Rather than rely solely on physical labor, Hercules employed divine ingenuity. He studied local geography and noticed 2 rivers. The Alpheus and Peneus flowed near the stables. With tremendous effort, he diverted both waterways, channeling their combined flow directly through the vast stable complex. The rushing waters swept away 30 years of accumulated filth in mere hours, demonstrating that true heroism sometimes required wisdom rather than mere brute force. The sixth labor brought Hercules to Lake Stymphaleos, where man-eating birds with bronze beaks and razor-sharp feathers had multiplied until they darkened the sky. The challenge lay not in destroying individual birds, but forcing them from their marshy sanctuary. Athena provided him with a bronze rattle forged by Hephaestus. Climbing to a prominence overlooking the marsh, Hercules shook the divine rattle with all his strength. The terrible sound drove the Stymphalian birds into panicked flight. As they rose in a great black cloud, Hercules drew his bow and fired arrows dipped in Hydra's poison, each shaft finding its mark with lethal precision. The seventh labor commanded Hercules to capture the Cretan bull, the magnificent white beast that had carried Europa across the sea and later sired the Minotaur. Sailing to Crete, Hercules declined King Minos's offer of assistance, knowing the labor must be accomplished through his own efforts. After a wrestling match lasting from dawn until sunset, Hercules subdued the great bull and carried the massive creature across the sea to the mainland. The eighth labor presented perhaps his most complex challenge, stealing the mares of Diomedes for savage horses that fed exclusively on human flesh. These beasts belonged to Diomedes, king of the Bistons in Thrace, who fed unwelcome visitors to his monstrous steeds. The mares were kept in bronze mangers, secured with iron chains, their very breath poisonous to mortals. Under cover of darkness, Hercules and his volunteers infiltrated Diomedes' palace. The sight that greeted them was horrifying. Ground littered with human bones and mares with eyes glowing with unholy hunger. When Diomedes discovered the theft and pursued with his army, several of Hercules' companions were killed, including his beloved friend Abderus. In rage, Hercules fed King Diomedes to his own mares, and the taste of their master's flesh somehow tamed the savage beasts. The ninth labor took Hercules to the realm of the Amazons to retrieve the golden belt of their queen Hippolyta, a gift from Mars symbolizing her authority over fierce warrior women. When Hercules arrived at the Myskira, Queen Hippolyta received him with honor and willingly agreed to give him her belt, recognizing the nobility of his mission. However, Hera disguised herself as an Amazon warrior and spread rumors that the hero had come to kidnap their queen. The Amazon army launched a massive assault, and in the chaos, Hippolyta was accidentally killed. Hercules was forced to fight his way through an army of the world's most skilled female warriors, bearing deep sorrow for the noble queen's death. The 10th labor commanded Hercules to steal the cattle of Geryon, a three-bodied giant ruling red-skinned herds on the island of Erythea. This quest pushed the hero beyond the known world's boundaries, crossing the Libyan desert under scorching heat. Hercules grew so frustrated he shot an arrow at the sun itself. Impressed by his audacity, Helios loaned him the golden cup that carried the sun across the sky. Using this divine vessel as a boat, Hercules sailed to Erythea and encountered Geryon, along with the two-headed dog Orpheus and herdsman Eurytion. The battle with Geryon was unlike any faced before, as the giant could attack from 3 directions simultaneously. Hercules' arrows, poisoned with Hydra venom, proved decisive in the conflict. The 11th labor took Hercules to the Garden of the Hesperides to steal golden apples that granted immortality. The garden was located at the world's western edge, guarded by the 100-headed dragon Ladon and tended by nymphs. who were daughters of the evening star. Finding the garden's location proved nearly as challenging as the theft itself. His quest led him to Prometheus, the titan who had given fire to humanity and suffered eternal punishment. Chained to a rock with an eagle eating his liver daily, Prometheus agreed to help in exchange for freedom. Following his advice, Hercules sought Atlas, condemned to hold up the heavens. Atlas agreed to retrieve the apples, while Hercules temporarily bore his cosmic burden, an experience that nearly crushed even the mighty hero. When Atlas returned and attempted to trick Hercules into bearing the burden permanently, the hero's intelligence matched his strength. He convinced Atlas to take back the heavens temporarily while he adjusted position, then departed with the apples once Atlas was again supporting the sky. The 12th and final labor commanded Hercules to descend into Hades and capture Cerberus, the three-headed dog guarding the underworld's gates. This task was considered impossible, as no living mortal had ever returned from the realm of the dead. After seeking initiation into the Eleusinian mysteries for protection, Hercules located an entrance through a cave near Tanarum. When Hercules encountered Hades himself, the god of the dead was surprisingly receptive, perhaps recognizing the justice of the hero's quest. Hades agreed to allow Cerberus's capture on one condition. Hercules must subdue the beast using only his bare hands. The battle with Cerberus was the most terrifying of all challenges. The three-headed hound was building-sized, with venomous fangs and a bite that could sever a man in half, drawing upon every ounce of strength and courage. Hercules grappled with the monstrous dog in a battle that shook Hades' foundations. Finally, with Cerberus nearly unconscious from strangulation, Hercules bound the creature and carried it to the surface world. The sight was so terrifying that Eurystheus immediately commanded its return to Hades. With the 12 labors' completion, Hercules had achieved something far greater than mere redemption. He had demonstrated that mortal strength, combined with divine purpose and unwavering determination, could overcome any obstacle. His journey from madness to heroism became a template for human transformation that has inspired countless generations. The labors represent more than impossible tasks completed by superhuman strength. They embody the eternal human struggle to transcend darker impulses, find meaning in suffering, and transform personal tragedy into universal triumph. In facing monsters both literal and metaphorical, Hercules showed that true heroism lies not in the absence of failure, but in the courage to seek redemption. Over 3 millennia after these legends first took shape, Hercules' story continues to resonate with fundamental truths about the human condition. We all carry within us the capacity for both creation and destruction. The 12 labors remind us that greatness is not a birthright, but an achievement, earned through struggle, sacrifice, and the willingness to confront our deepest fears. Hercules achieved immortality not through supernatural strength, but through the immortal example of his courage, determination, and ultimate transformation. His labors became the template for heroic endeavor itself, proving that even the greatest among us must earn their place in legend through deeds that transcend the merely mortal and touch the eternal.